All of the resurrection appearances that we have of Jesus in the Gospels are extraordinarily touching and moving. And I'm very happy that we finally have this Gospel. It's only every 3 years that we have this Gospel on a Sunday. We have it every year during Easter week. It's the appendix to the Gospel of John. It's the story of the meeting on the shore of Galilee, Sea of Galilee. I always remember that my first retreat as a religious, as a Jesuit novice, the retreat director said that he thought that one line in today's gospel was perhaps the most beautiful line in the whole New Testament. As dawn was breaking, Jesus stood on the shore, stood on the beach. So it's what breathes in Jesus' appearances are an extraordinary, an expansive peace, a quiet joy, an intimate love, and you get a sense of this almost breathing after the struggle of the crucifixion, the whole passion. This is the mood of the resurrection. It still is. And likewise, after the long night of struggle and no results, which is often the case in our lives too, dawn does break, and Jesus is standing on the beach. Peter is all enthused and jumps in, but what they discover when they get to the shore is, well, again, the mood of the resurrection. Jesus is not sitting there on a throne and saying, "See, I'm God," right? He's not going and taking vengeance on his enemies. He's not, thundering in the clouds saying, "Look, I'm risen." It's a quiet joy and an expansive peace and an intimate love. And the intimate love is shown especially in that he serves them. Again, he's not there on a throne. He's what he did at the Last Supper, washing their feet. He's serving them. I've come not to be served, but to serve. And that continues. It wasn't just while he was on earth. That's who he is. And that's how we know, or that's how he reveals the face of God, the Son of the Father. That's what the Father does. He's not waiting around to be served and worshipped. He's serving. What do you think he's doing in the creation the whole time? Always. In our own hearts and minds, giving us being, giving us life, in the whole universe, not just our planet, everywhere. God is at our service. So when Jesus came to reveal the face of God, he was at our service, and he still is. Of course, because he's still the Son of God, of the same God, who is always at our service. So that's why he says, "Come and have breakfast." He makes breakfast for them. But I think he's doing it at the Eucharist all the time. And everywhere. All the time. So that's why the second part of this gospel is equally important, not just for Peter, but for us. Intimate love, I said. So that's the question he asks Peter, who's going to be the leader of his followers. Do you love me? Do you love me as I love you? And we can't just say, "Oh, sure, I love Jesus because I'm supposed to love Jesus," or "I have a personal relationship with Jesus because that's what I'm supposed to have, a personal..." No, do you actually love Jesus? Do you know him as he knows and loves you? That's the important thing for any follower of Jesus, to behave as he does, to love one another as I have loved you, as I love you. So that's the one question he asks Peter, and that he asks throughout history, all his followers, including us, "Do you love me?" And if we dare to reply, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you," then what does he say? "Feed my sheep." Just as I am at the service of all, you must prove your love by being at the service of all. Just as I reveal my Father by serving, so you will reveal me to the world by serving. And then he asks it again. And again. And many have pointed out, oh, that's probably to counteract the threefold denial of Peter. Okay. But it's also so that he'll get it. Any good teacher knows you've got to repeat it 3 times and more. And even then, have we gotten it? Well, that's the second part of the story. You know, we're called to be universal. That's what Catholic means, universal. That it means to appeal to all persons and to the whole person. It's also what Catholic means. So it's going to be universal. And I always love to point out with this gospel the myriad symbols and examples of universality which there are in today's whole liturgy. You have the heavenly worship, the heavenly liturgy. You have all the angels, tens of thousands of angels who are worshiping the Lord in heaven, and they offer him 7 qualities, wisdom, power, honor, blessing, 7. And 7 is the mystical number for the spiritual world. So everything in the heavens is part of this mystery. Then it goes down to earth, and it says everything on earth and under the earth and in the sea also worships, and it worships and gives 4 qualities to God. Because 4 is the symbol of the earth, the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 traditional elements. So universality, all the heavens and all the earths are involved in this. And then there are those wonderful 153 fish. Now, who wants to tell me why there are 153? Well, of course, scholars and spiritual writers and the fathers of the church have been wondering about this for all this time. And they've come up, that I've discovered, with 3 possible solutions. First one, 153 is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 all the way up to 17. Don't take out your calculators now. But 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way up to 17. So it represents a kind of mathematical perfection or fullness on that level. 153 apparently is also the number of species of animals in the ancient classical author of Pliny's zoology. 153 species. So all the animals, all the species of the earth. And of course, we know there are a lot more than 153,000 whatever species. Although, thanks to us, they're diminishing every day, as you know. And 153 biblically, if you search the scriptures, is 153,000 workers on the Temple of Solomon to build it. So again, all the people participating. Interestingly, though, in the version in the book of Kings, it's the Israelites, 153,000 Israelites. In the version in the book of Chronicles, it's 153,000 alien workers. Well, that's pretty topical, don't you think? In any case, it represents, a universality. But that's the challenge, isn't it? How do we keep our integrity and our depth and our purity, when we're called to be an institution that goes out into all the world across all of history? Think of all the temptations that involves. You start being an empire. That happened in the 4th century, and we haven't stopped being an empire. Whatever cost, military, political, power, and influence, and became more important. Of course, all in the name of God and spreading the faith, blah, blah, blah. But it's really hard. And then plus you have an institution has rules, and it has to be clearly defined, and then it becomes more and more exclusive and more tribal, which we've got plenty of that still today. How universal is that? Whom are we protecting? Whom are we serving? Ourselves. Pope Francis keeps reminding us, stop referring to yourself all the time. Get out, get out. So the temptation is not really to be universal in the way that Jesus is now, the way Jesus is now, the way the Father is now, the way the Spirit is now. Expansive peace, quiet joy, and intimate love expressed in service. That's all. That should be the mood of our resurrection that we already share in Christ. That should be what it means to love one another as he loves us. Imagine if we brought that to the world. Quiet joy, expansive peace, intimate love expressed in service. We probably don't trust it. It's not powerful enough. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. Much more powerful than swords and guns and loudspeakers and rules and panoply. That's what really reaches hearts. Do we have the courage and the humility just to be that, to do that for the world, as Jesus calls us to do? Because remember, there again, he's not going around saying, worship me, which we've been doing for 2,000 years, as an excuse not to do what he asks us in the last line of today's gospel and all throughout the gospel. Follow me. Follow me. Do as I do. Don't distract yourself and excuse yourself by worshiping me. Follow me. Follow my expansive peace and quiet joy and intimate love expressed in service.